Hey guys, this is Tom, and I'm back. Yes, it has been a while, but we're back with lots of new episodes talking about lots of really interesting subjects. But you might not recognize this room. And that is correct because I am currently in Amsterdam where I'm working currently. I still have my old studio and my assistants back in LA, but this is another studio where I will be spending a lot of time and recording studio times. So a lot of things are different in this room, but there's one thing that is the same, and that is my computer setup. The same computer setup that I used to have in LA and all my assistants work with. It's still the same setup, still running Cubase, still running the same keyboards and fader masters and all that, and the picture computer behind me. That is all the same. The rest is all completely different. As some of you might know, towards the end of 2020, I sold the majority of my gear, most of my guitars, pretty much all the synths, my modular walls, like everything went out of the door, and I explained it very detailed in multiple videos why I did that. So, setting up shop here in Amsterdam, I still wanted to work with similar boxes and similar synthesizers, so there's a lot of new gear in this place. So let's start first with the stuff that is very familiar. And as we see here, we have my standard Cubase setup that you guys are very familiar with from all the other studio times. A touchscreen, keyboard, mouse, fader master, and a keyboard. Like I said, this is all the same. Now everything becomes different. And I turn over to that side because we see a few guitars that I already had in LA, but those are the ones I didn't sell. In the back, we see the guitar I did the score of Mad Max on. I cannot sell that guitar, that belongs to me. Next to it, another Gibson, and right here, a very special Strat. Incredible sounding instrument. Underneath here is my toolbox, because always something needs to be opened and needs to be fixed. And that's why that toolbox is there to help me with that. And this is an ARP 2600, not the one that I used to have, but this one is the reissue of Cork, and it comes with this really nice keyboard, and it has a couple of really interesting features, among which MIDI and USB. We'll talk separately in another video about this. What we have here is something pretty fancy, and I'm very happy that I finally have something like this. This is a summing rack with some very fancy equipment in it. There is TubeTech multi-band compressors, distressors. There's the TubeTech MEC1A, which is an equalizer and a compressor, and the 17D by Universal Audio, which is a 4-channel tube or transistor preamp with compression in it. And I have this twice. And why do I have this twice? As people maybe remember, I work in quad. That means left-right to the front and left-right to the back. And I'm able to process quad signals from Cubase running through this and then back to Cubase. And with this incredible software program and this little box over here, the Xpatch 32, I'm able to change the routing of any of these boxes. I can change the order. I can do many cool stuff with it. And I'll show a video separately about that. Right here, this is my most proud, newest acquirement. And this is Buchla 200E modular systems. I ordered it more than a year and a half ago, and it takes forever for them to build. It's a small company, very smart people, and it was the last type of synthesizer that I really needed to conquer how to work with, because all the other classic synths I had for many, many years, or I played around with. I had Moog modular systems, lots of Eurorack, but Buchla I never owned, and I really wanted to dive into the system, and boy, is this an incredible modular system. But there will be separate studio tutorials about this wonderful system, because it's simply not half an hour is enough to even give you a quick tour, you know? So there will be lots of tutorials about this thing. Underneath, we see the Waldorf Quantum, which for me is one of the most interesting synths of the 21st century. what it's able to do is absolutely mind-blowing. Again, I can talk about that more in a separate video. Let's move on to something really interesting that arrived today. Yes, I'm not lying. It came today. The box is still downstairs. This is a Tascam 246 cassette multi-track recorder. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, cassette multi-band recorder. A really good friend of mine, Phil Mills, he used to own one of these, and I borrowed it from him to do recordings in the early, mid-'80s, and I always wanted to have a really good version of this again to work with. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do with this thing. I'm going to use the limited quality that cassette recording obviously has on 4 tracks, and I'm going to record on each track modular synth recordings and drones and things like that, and I can mix a sound of like a soundscape on the fly by really using the overdrive of this cassette recorder. I can hook up some effects to it. So I'm expecting to create some really interesting tones with this box. And it's so much fun to play something on the guitar and just, you know, switch the cassette around, and now you have it in reverse. Yes, I know you can do that in Cubase very easily, but it's so much fun to do it with the cassette. Okay, that's it for the history of cassette players. You'll see that thing in action. What we see here are a bunch of 19-inch boxes, so you will see some more. And if you look very carefully, you see no brand names on them. Even though this looks like Chandler, this looks like fancy Manly gear, and this potentially looks like some old Focusrite stuff or Fairlight, but it is not. This is all stuff I made myself. I spent roughly 6 months building all that, plus multiple more flight cases. So what I have in this home studio is 2 of these, plus a few of these, but in the other studio there are more racks with more modules on top, and we'll film those as well. So what I did, I used to be a tech engineer myself, building guitar pedals and guitar amplifiers in my teenage years. So I started designing really interesting distortion tones and vintage reverb tones, tape delays, simulations, chorus effects, flanging effects, mixers. I made a copy of fuzz pedals. I made something that is close to the Maestro Brass Master, which is incredible on guitar. Such a filthy tone comes out of it. And it took me forever to build and design all this stuff, but it sounds incredible. Again, more studio times to come about this. Then here, we see my Telecaster, also a guitar that I didn't sell when I was selling my instruments. More about that guitar later. And then we see another modular wall, and you might think, but wait, didn't he already had all that, like in LA? Well, yes and no. Because yes, I had a huge modular system, Eurorack and Moog, and I sold everything, but the modules that you see in here are very modern Eurorack modules. So they all came out in the last year, year and a half, 2 years. There's a few golden oldies, like some of the Make Noise stuff that I acquired again, some of the Erica stuff that I acquired again, 4MS, and some stuff by Electro Rossum. But other than that, a lot of the stuff that is in here, it was released like in the last year, 2 years. It's very modern in tone, very experimental, and really, really, really great to work with. But more about this modular system and the Buchla system in future videos. And now we cruise over here and we almost get to the end of this small little cozy room. Those are 3 extra guitars that I didn't sell. This is my jazz bass. I've had this bass for a really, really, really long time. Never is going to go out the door. And here we see a Jaguar, and here we see a Jazzmaster. I've had these guitars for a while as well. Some of these beautiful instruments I simply cannot sell. They're too close to my heart, but most of the other stuff that was sold in 2020, I could really do without. And people have asked me so many times regarding the synths. Tom, you will regret it. Even Hans Zimmer told me, you will regret it next year and you will be crying in bed. You sold all those beautiful synths. Well, Hans, I'm sorry. I love it. I'm happy that I don't have them. And I am happy I have more modern synths that actually do what they're supposed to be doing every day instead of breaking down on you and you have to call a tech engineer to fix it all again. Anyway, always good for birthday parties, that kind of talk. Anyway, that's the end of this really short tour. I hope you like it. And in the next episodes, we will be going more in depth, more in focus on what certain things exactly do and why I have them. And more importantly, how I use them. So I'll see you soon in one of the newer episodes.